OpsMill debuts, Telegram under scrutiny, FBI's forum takeover, VPN proxy chicanery, T-Mobile gets a new plan, and a closer look at some EU AI regulations in this episode of the Gestalt IT Rundown. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gestalt IT Rundown for Wednesday, May 29th, 2024. My name is Tom Hollingsworth, and if you're having trouble keeping things together like I usually do, you're in luck because it's National Paperclip Day. So bust out some of those things that you used to unfold to eject the DVD drive on your computer, because we don't have those anymore, and use them what they were originally designed for. Sitting in the corner of Microsoft Office and complaining that you weren't doing things right. That's right, Clippy is the proto-AI. But joining me is one of our first-time hosts and a longtime friend of Tech Field Day, Mr. Ariane Timmerman. Ariane, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Yeah, good to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, we're very glad to have you joining us, and we've got a lineup of great stories. It's been an interesting news week here at the end of May, and there's some fun stuff going on. So, Ariane, I'm going to let you kick it off.
Yeah, so there's a new automation sheriff in town launching yesterday at AutoCon 2.0. Is OpsMill. Their founders have lots of experience in the networking industry and have seen where the next steps need to be. OpsMill InfraHub brings together the structure of existing tools like Autobot and Netbox with the scalability and flexibility of GitHub. InfraHub serves as a single source of truth that stores more than just configuration. It also integrates with popular frameworks like Ansible and Terraform. Tom, do we need another automation tool?
I think we do, and there's a reason for that. We did a briefing with the people who founded this. Raphael Monnier, their primary founder, he mentioned, GitHub is kind of where everybody goes to check their code in now, and it's very flexible. It's very unstructured, which to developers sounds like a dream. To us networking gurus, it sounds like a nightmare because there's no focus, there's no standardization. And if you don't believe that that's a big problem, how do you write down the MAC addresses in your network? Because I know there's 4 different ways and they all look substantially different enough that it will freak people out. So we have tools like Autobot and Netbox, which are both people who have presented at Field Day in the past, and they have a lot more structure. What they lack is any kind of flexibility around that. You're going to store it like this, it's going to be here. That's what makes it a good source of truth. And for those of you who are not aware of this, there's a big push in the industry to have a source of truth in your environment, not just what I want the desired state of the network to be, but what the desired state of the network actually is. So there really needs to be at least 1 or 2 sources of truth. And so what OpsMill's InfraHub is trying to accomplish is they're trying to take what GitHub offers in flexibility and add it to what we have, consistently seen in these other tools. And one of the things that I think is a huge win here is that InfraHub can store more than just configuration data. It's more than just MAC addresses and IP addresses. It's the schemas and the templates and the proxies and all that other stuff that you need to deploy. And that's a huge win for people because it's a lot of times it's not the data that is your problem. It's what you do with that data. It's like to think of some people that I know that are picking up the hobby. It's like having a whole bunch of yarn in the corner of your craft room and you don't know what to do with it. You have all the raw materials. What you're lacking is the structure to turn it into a scarf or a hat or a hat scarf. And so I'm very excited to see where OpsMill is going to be taking this. Like I said, they just debuted at AutoCon 2.0, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, you absolutely should. Chris Grenneman's doing great work over there. But, we're looking forward to seeing kind of how this launches, where they take it from there. And who knows, we might try to get them to be involved in a networking field day in the future. So stay tuned for more great details there. European Union officials are currently engaging in discussions with popular chat app Telegram regarding its user base, as reported by a Bloomberg story. They're citing some unnamed sources. While Telegram officially asserts that it has 41 million European users, local regulators remain skeptical and suspect that their actual user count might be just a little bit higher. The issue is particularly significant because platforms with 45 or more million users, referred to as very large online platforms, or more colloquially, BLOPs, operating within the EU are subject to much stricter regulations under the EU Digital Services Act. Ariane, what does it mean if Telegram is underreporting its users, and what could happen if they actually do have more than 45 million?
There's a lot of things that could happen if they go over the 45 million. So for them, it's a big thing. And um, like you already mentioned, they report to the European Union and say, we've got this many users in the EU. The EU has a lot of regulations, and one of those is indeed the Digital Services Act. And with that, if you go over 45 million uh, official users, you are at least you have to do some stuff to your platform that makes it um, more secure and more yeah, more secure basically to the users of the EU, um, which will probably translate to all of your users. Because if you have to do it in the EU, why would you do it? Why would you not do it somewhere else? It's a platform that you will use in the entire world. But to come back to that, if the EU would find that it's over 45 million, they have to make sure, and they have to show the European Union that they provide all the security and all the things needed to be within the Digital Services Act. And if not, there could be a big fine for them. So it could be that it's, I think it's 4% of their revenue that could be a fine, or it's even up to 6%. So yeah, that could mean a lot of money that needs to be paid to the European Union if it would be more than 45. They're growing very hard. There's a lot of talk about what they all do. There's also a lot of talk about the Ukrainian-Russian war, where Telegram has been used and is being used by a lot of the Russian people, especially the soldiers, to send data back and forth. So yeah, that could be a really big thing if something goes wrong there. So yeah, there is a lot going on, and we'll come back to another European act, or at least regulation within the European Union. So let's continue to the next one. The FBI. And the FBI has decided to get into the forum business. Well, sort of. Last week, the popular hacker forum site BreachForums was apparently taken over by the feds. Um, a notice went up on the front page telling everyone that the site was now under the control of the FBI. The site had already been seized last year when operator Connor Brian Fitzpatrick was arrested and pled guilty to operating it. After he was sentenced, some other person took over the site and started it up again. This time the FBI seized the forums on the official Telegram channel. There we go again, Telegram. Tom, why does the FBI care about the forum site?
Well, they're just like every other internet user. They want a place to go and complain about stuff. No, that's not what happened here. The problem is that BreachForums is a really well-known place to trade leaked information. You know, you can, if you've heard stories on places like Darknet Diaries about where do you go to find stolen credit card data, or stolen social security numbers or things like that, this is where you go. Now, of course, the problem is just like any good criminal enterprise, as soon as people know that that's where you go to get the stuff, that's also where the enforcement agents know where to go to shut you down. And so, as mentioned in the story, this is where it gets hilarious. So follow along. They got seized last year, and they arrested Connor Fitzpatrick, and they sentenced him to prison. And then someone took over the domain again. The FBI shut him down. It was like a week and a half ago, right? Guess what? They're back already. That's the thing. It's like whack-a-mole. You can't keep them down. The problem is that with the amount of data breaches that we're seeing, with the frequency with which that information is being stolen and shared on the internet, you can't not run a site like this. I hear this all the time. How do you prevent crime? Well, I don't know. Have you tried not breaking the law? I don't know. Have we tried not putting a dollar value on someone's social security number or either, whatever the European ID equivalent is? The reason why is because those things are so valuable to people who are trying to commit fraud or trying to fleece people, scammers, what have you. I mean, take a tour through my spam folder on a regular basis, and oh, did you know that I have your social security number and all of your contacts, and I saw what you were doing on your webcam, and I'm gonna get you to send me like zero point zero 0.01 Bitcoin, and I'm like, yeah, if you really saw what I was doing on my webcam, you'd want more than 0.01 Bitcoin. No, it's the thing is like there's a dollar amount associated with this, and there's always going to be forum sites, and as soon as you take one of them down, two of them pop back up, sometimes even with the same name. So I think what's going to happen is that the feds are going to have to start working with the EU and other places around the world to create more of a globalized crime task enforcement agency, because a lot of these people hide in places like Russia, Ukraine, China, North Korea, where they're effectively immune from law. As we'll discuss, in a later story, there's only so much that you can do when someone's hiding in a place where you can't get them to enforce it. So I don't know. Maybe what the FBI needs to do is they just need to open their own forums. The Fed forum or whatever, and they can let people do stuff there, like complain and all this other stuff. I mean, if you can't beat them, you might as well join them, right? If the VPN is free, are you the product? Well, in the case of a residential service that was known as 911S5, or you may have downloaded it as Mask VPN or Do VPN, you absolutely were the product. That's because the operators of the service were using your computer as a proxy for criminals to send their traffic through you to commit offenses. When users would connect to VPN servers, they would open a reverse socket from the VPN server back to your PC, and that would allow your PC to be used by other people in the service for illicit purposes. 3 Chinese nationals were sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department as the investigation continues on. But I guess, Ariane, the biggest question is, one, should we still be using free VPN services? And two, why would a country want to use my VPN service or my PC as a terminal point to get to other folks in that country?
First of all, I've been taught that something is never for free. So thinking VPN is free, I would I would not jump into that very quickly. But yeah, VPN is something very good, but it's not free. People have to work on it. There's software development involved with it, and either you pay through uh, some sort of spam or whatever, or you will pay like you just described. And why would you use that? Because it's very easy, right? It's VPN. You're there's already security for them built into it, and using other people's PCs is kind of like you just said, it's like doing crime without being really noticed. Although in the end they are noticed, and there is something going on. But basically, I think that's it, right? It's like, okay, if I can utilize some user's PC and make sure that I can do, especially if you're from China and you want to do something in the US and you can do it that way, it's the easiest way to do it, right? So why wouldn't you? Again, free is never free. Make sure that you know what the product offers you, but also what the offer means for you. And there's always the small letter. Probably it wasn't in there stating to the people that they could have been used for this kind of stuff, but at least know what the product does. And I think, especially with VPN, that's something to consider. You utilize VPN for something, and that's probably security and making sure that you can do stuff. Maybe use Netflix from from another side of the world or something like that. But that means something. You're masking yourself, and with that, you're probably giving the people that want to utilize that a mask for them as well. So yeah, uh, free is never free. That's the final answer. So in a blockbuster move, T-Mobile has added US Cellular to their portfolio. The Un-carrier is snapping up 30% for the reported 4.4 billion. This includes all the subscribers and brick and mortar retail locations. T-Mobile will also assume around 2 billion in debt from US Cellular and rent towers from the company. T-Mobile has framed the bill not as a reduction in competition, but as a way to more directly compete against industry titans AT&T and Verizon. The acquisition follows along the line of deals including Sprint and Mint Mobile. So, what's your take on that, Tom? You're in the US. I'm in the EU. T-Mobile is big here. They're probably big in the US as well. So, what's your take on that?
You're right. They are big. They're the third largest competitor out there. I mean, all you got to know is that AT&T is blue, Verizon is red, T-Mobile is pink. That's kind of how we look at them around here. It's like sweetener packets. But more importantly, when you read into what's going on here, it's really odd. So the for one part of the press, what they're saying is that we're increasing reliability and services to rural customers. So everyone out there knows rural customers, basically anyone who doesn't live in a city that you've heard of in the US. But when you look at US Cellular, it was a regional provider. It was kind of mostly the mid Atlantic in the east and kind of in the south. Like we have some US Cellular here in Oklahoma, but not nearly as much as we used to because they're starting to get crowded out by those larger providers. Most people are on Verizon or AT&T. It's the Coke and Pepsi. It's the, any of the other binary choices. And so T-Mobile needs to do something to commit to getting better. Although I will say that they are not making their customers happy. So any of the goodwill that you've seen or heard of from T-Mobile back when John Laguerre used to run the thing, yeah, that's gone. The new guy is basically like, what was it, like 2 days ago? They announced that they're raising prices for their customers. Like, there's a lot of angry people who are writing the FCC right now going, I can't believe that you said that you put it in writing that you would not raise our bills. Wasn't a lot, but it was enough. Now, where does this whole thing come in? Well, one, this is going to make the investors happy. You're arming to get ready to take down AT&T and Verizon, just like you said you were going to do when you bought Sprint. Never mind that now. What you're getting access to is a whole lot of new subscribers. It was very important that the deal was structured so that T-Mobile took on all of US Cellular subscribers, but not all of US Cellular's infrastructure. Because what they get is what their investors want, a revenue stream. They get new people who can stay on your US Cellular plan if you want, or, you could upgrade to a T-Mobile plan if you wanted to too, asterisk with some additional fees. That's what they're looking. They're looking for revenue growth. They're looking for subscriber growth because I got news for you. Most of the people in the country that have a cellular plan, that's you haven't hit saturation, but you're really close. So now it's not a question of can I get net new subscribers? It's where are those net new subscribers going to be coming from? Well, they're probably going to be coming through acquisition. And that's what T-Mobile's betting on. But by not acquiring the infrastructure, that gives them two other kind of fundamental areas. One, it allows them to avoid the regulators because that's going to be a huge deal when you're reducing competition in a market. The modern FTC has shown that they are very hesitant to just rubber stamp deals. So there has to be some kind of a trade off. And in this case, T-Mobile is going to be renting spectrum from US Cellular. So they're still going to be paying what remains of the other company. But more importantly, I think what this is basically tacit understanding that T-Mobile has all the infrastructure that they're going to need. I mean, Mint Mobile, the one we mentioned, that was an MVNO. For those of you who don't know, that's when you have a cellular plan with a company, but they don't actually own the towers; they just rent them. Boost Mobile is another popular one that does that. You see that they don't want to take on infrastructure that they're going to have to upgrade and constantly maintain. They would rather the company do that. So think about it would be like if a utility company provided power to your home, but they rented the transmission lines from a completely different company. And now that I say that, please don't do that, utility companies, because it's a dumb idea, because you're adding more chaos into the platform that causes people to get angry. So now let's say that there's an outage in Western North Carolina, which is actually a place where US Cellular was really huge. Whose problem is it? Is it T-Mobile because that's who my bill goes to? Well, no, it's not really T-Mobile's problem. It's actually US Cellular's problem, because they're the ones that still own the tower, even though I'm on a US Cellular plan on a T-Mobile paper. Well, this gets really confusing. Now, what's going to end up happening is people are going to blame everybody. It's like it's always the wireless's fault. It's always my provider's fault. But I'm curious to see kind of where this goes. I think this should get through regulatory approval, just because of the way the deal is structured. But I could be wrong, and we still have a year to find out. So let's revisit this story in a year and see what happens. If nothing else, maybe we'll be on a new phone plan by then. All right, we had a story we wanted to take a closer look at, and it involves AI. I know we don't talk enough about AI around here, but more importantly, it talks about regulations with AI, because the world's leading internet firms are actively collaborating with regulators in the European Union to ensure compliance with the bloc's stringent data protection rules. According to Ireland's Data Protection Commission, which serves as the lead EU regulator for a majority of tech companies out there, like Alphabet, Google, Meta, Microsoft, TikTok, OpenAI, and any other alphabet soups that you want to come up with, the firms are starting to take extensive measures to ensure that their artificial intelligence products do not violate data privacy regulations. Wow, that's a shock. Now, Ariane, is the EU governmental involvement in this a good or a bad thing? And what other EU regulations could potentially be impacted by this?
So, first of all, yes. I think the EU should definitely be involved in this, um, for multiple reasons, but for making sure that you have a understanding, let's put it that way, with the big competitors in this market is a good thing. Um, I don't think it should always be pushed down. Let's put it that way, that it always has to come from the European Union saying you have to do it this way, especially because um, the big companies that you already mentioned have some very intelligent people working for them, knowing what they're doing and knowing what they're building, and talking with them and making sure that you get on a same playing field, and making sure that you know what they're doing, and creating regulation around that is what's really important. I've heard multiple of my customers talking about, we are going to utilize AI. But then when they hear, especially I think about a year ago, when OpenAI got bigger and bigger, when they heard that if you put your data within ChatGPT, and then the data was from OpenAI, and people were like, wait, what? So if I put my data with OpenAI, it's their data. It's not our data anymore. What would the impact be if you're a company in the Netherlands doing finance or healthcare or social security or whatever, the things that would happen to the data. And we already talked about it. You already mentioned it. Um, Data is probably the new oil or the new gold or whatever you want to call it, right? It's the worth of data is so big that you really want to make sure that your data is your data. And so data collection is really important, and that needs to be regulated through whatever is decided by the European Union regulators, but it needs to be done within those companies, right? The rights, the individual rights, the data rights, um, the privacy, everything needs to be accounted for. But you have to have an understanding of what's going on. And I always have the feeling that it's a in the EU it's a bit different than in the US. And I really want to hear what you think about that. But there was one more question that you asked. What is the I would say the biggest impact that the AI Act will have in the EU is on the GDPR side of things. And I really feel that GDPR and AI will go hand in hand. Others will follow as well. You've got NIS, and NIS 2 is coming up. You've got DORA that's coming up. Everything will be tied together. But for now, I think GDPR is the biggest of the things that will be impacted by the AI Act. But let me hear your story of on the US part of things.
Oh, Ariane, come on. What's all this regulatory talk? Don't you know that we, as Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and the smartest people in the room, know better what we should be doing with this than you do? We'll just give it unfettered access to your data and we'll crawl everywhere, all over the internet, to be able to find out all this data. And we can use it in ways that you couldn't even possibly imagine. And never mind the fact that our algorithm's doing things that it really shouldn't be doing over here in the corner. That's not important right now. What's important is that you shouldn't tell us what we should be doing with our software.
Yeah.
That pretty much sums up exactly how everybody feels about this. You know, it's like being in a family where one of your parents is overly permissive to the point of basically ruining your life, and the other one is what feels to you like an overbearing authoritarian person who in reality is a reasonable person who just wants to keep you safe. I'll let you figure out which parent is which in this particular case. Look, the fact that the companies are basically working hand in glove with the regulators tells me that they understand that they've got issues that they need to solve. Because it's one thing to deploy this stuff across the US and see how it's being used, and the fact that you can get around a lot of these regulatory things by oh well, a lot of this traffic passes through the US, so we'll just examine it when it gets here. The fact that the EU is willing to tap the brakes a little bit and say, hold on, we need to have some assurances here. Because I will say this, ever since GDPR came out and all of the things that have followed it, yes, the whole cookie pop-up thing is damned annoying whenever you go to a website, but that should be a warning to you about how much information that everyone's collecting. And the fact that they have to notify you, and it was just easier for them to do that, and that it was cheaper to put a pop-up everywhere no matter what than just to do a geolocation and figure out if you're in the EU, or you're coming from a browser that has an EU identification string, that they should pop this up, should tell you exactly where they're at with this. AI isn't making things any easier. And yes, like when you read the EULAs for a lot of this stuff, oh my God, it is insane. There was a story we didn't even get a chance to cover this week where NVIDIA is actually arguing that a lot of these black market book pirating sites are not actually black market book pirating sites because the content, yada, yada. Basically what they're saying is that we might have accidentally scraped like Z library and added all of that content into our algorithm, and we don't want to have to face a copyright claim by the book's author that we included it in there when we probably really shouldn't have. So please don't think that we're doing anything bad, but also we want to continue to be able to do this in the future. So I don't think that this should be a full copyright claim. Maybe we can give them some pennies on the dollar. I mean, it's not like NVIDIA can afford it, right? They're only worth what, nearly $3 trillion right now. This is where we get into that really messy kind of middle ground. Look, I know I've used AI recently to do a lot of really cool stuff. Like I did video transcription, and then I fed the transcription to ChatGPT, and I said, "Hey, summarize this for me so that I don't have to wade through like 45 minutes of video to figure out what's going on here." That's a powerful use of AI. But now the AI system has that script. So who owns it? Does the transcript belong to me as the person who recorded the video? Does the transcript belong to ChatGPT who summarized it for me? Does it belong to some other system that I'm not aware of? Until we can get all this stuff sorted out, we are in a very precarious position. And all you got to do, ignore all the other data protection, like identity management type stuff. All you got to do is look at the AI art stuff. If you trained the system on a bunch of other people's copyrighted art, and then it started producing art that was similar but not identical to the other copyrighted art, who owns the copyright? Is it a derivative work? Is it something that I should be able to open up? Well, I know what the US is going to say. We're going to shoot our guns in the air like it's the Wild West and go, "Yeehaw, we don't care about no rules around here. This is like Tombstone." Whereas the EU is going to fold their arms over their chest and go, "You really should be paying those creators for what they've created," and things like that. But I don't know. Am I being a little bit too laissez-faire with the rules over here?
I don't know. It probably it will be in the middle, right? And it will probably go that way in the end. In the beginning, the EU will force a lot. The US will do whatever you said, and they will probably be shooting in the air. Yeah, probably. But I think the good thing is that the EU wants to find a common ground and make sure that everybody is protected in some way. Um, will it will it be misused? Yes, of course. Will there be things where we say, yeah, we should have paid the original creator of it? Probably. But in the end, will it boil down to a industry that can do things together and make a better world? Probably. Do we still should we still have a very good look at what AI is doing, what it can do, and what it will do in the future? Absolutely. And are there regulations that need to be in place for that? Absolutely. Because we are talking about infringement, we're talking about who owns the stuff, but that's just the beginning. We're just at the beginning of AI, and there's a lot more coming. And I think the regulation should be even more focused on that than the AI that we have right now, which there is some potential in it, but the things that will come from AI will probably be much more regulated than this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's going to have to be a middle ground, and we're going to have to do a little bit more investigating to find it, because all or nothing is not the way that this is going to go, and that's why the companies are actively involved in the regulatory process, is because they know that if they get in now and they work with regulators, maybe they can come out of this not having the screws tightened down so much that they squeak. And we'll be investigating how all of this happens in the rundown in the weeks ahead, because that's just what we do here. But speaking of the weeks ahead, we have a lot of stuff going on over the next few weeks. In fact, today, the reason why Ariane is joining me is because Stephen is kicking off our very first App Dev Field Day. We've got presentations today and tomorrow from companies like Catchpoint, Mesmo, and Google Cloud. So make sure you head over to techfieldday.com or TechStrong TV to tune in for more information about that. We've also got something coming up next week. We've got two things. The first is going to be Click Connect. That's another event that Steven's going to be doing out in Orlando, Florida. Make sure you head over to techfieldday.com to check out more information there. We're going to be doing some video and other great stuff there. I am actually jumping on a plane on Sunday because I'm going to be going out to Las Vegas. So, the other direction, to go to Cisco Live US. I'm super excited to be there. I added it up. This will be my 18th year going to Cisco Live. So I'm super thrilled. It's the 35th anniversary, and we got great presentations from Cisco and OpenGear. Then the next week is another busy one. The first thing that's going to be happening is the annual 6.5 Summit. So this is the big thing that the Future Room Group does every year. The keynote is going to be from Bill McDermott, the CEO of ServiceNow, but there's going to be other great sessions. So make sure that you head over to the 65summit.com to see the lineup and get ready to watch that great video. And then that same week, we're going to be doing Cloud Field Day. Stephen is very excited to be back out in California with companies like Juniper, Morpheus Data, Oxide Computer, and a major hyperscaler. If you want to know more, if you want to see this tease pay off, head over to techfieldday.com and look on the page for Cloud Field Day 20. Then the week after that, it's another big conference. It's HPE Discover, and I'm going to be back out in Las Vegas. I'll bring my sunblock and a big floppy hat. But more importantly, I'll be bringing some great delegates because we're going to be at HPE Discover talking all things HPE Aruba networking. I have heard that there's going to be Wi-Fi 7 access points that are going to be deployed through the whole area that you're going to be able to use Wi-Fi 7. If you don't know what that is, make sure you go check out the videos from Mobility Field Day that we just posted last week. But more importantly, make sure you stay tuned for Networking Field Day exclusive at HPE Discover featuring HPE Aruba networking, because I think it's going to be a really exciting time. Just like every Wednesday is an exciting time here at the Gestalt IT Rundown. We publish on Wednesday afternoons on our YouTube channel, on our website at gestaltit.com, and your favorite podcast application of choice. We're a multimedia enterprise over here, not just Microsoft Encarta on the CD. We include all kinds of content, whether they're the show notes or our commentary and analysis on these things. So make sure you check us out. And when you do, leave us a rating and leave a review, because that is the most important way for people to figure out that this is a podcast they really should be listening to. Not those boring true crime murder mystery podcasts. No, we don't do that around here. The only crime is the ones that we report on. But we're not criminals, I think. Wait, do I have a VPN on my computer? Anyway, we'll be back next Wednesday with more great information and news. Until then, take care of yourself and pick up those paper clips that you dropped.